The weight of shadows. I still remember the day my father laughed in my face, the sound echoing through the cramped living room like a death knell. "You'll lose your mind, you know," he said, shaking his head in disbelief. "Chasing shadows and ghosts in the dark? You've disgraced this family enough already." It was a story that unfolded with the kind of cruel inevitability that only family can script. The moment I declared my intent to become an ossuary archivist, a title I had to explain incessantly to those who only saw it as a morbid curiosity, my family turned against me. They called me delusional, unhinged, even. I was a pariah in my own home, a warning whispered to my younger siblings about what happens when you stray too far from the path of normal. Years passed, each one more isolating than the last. I lost friends, opportunities, and the only semblance of familial support I had. Yet the deeper I delved into the catacombs beneath ancient cities, the more I uncovered. I mapped forbidden tunnels, catalogued bone vaults that others deemed cursed or mythic, and faced horrors that twisted the very fabric of sanity. It was in the depths of those shadows that I found myself, not as a disgrace, but as a vessel of dark truths. People began to recognize my work. The very same people who once mocked me now sought my expertise in what they had once dismissed as nonsense. I became a renowned expert in forbidden subterranean anthropology, a title that rang with the weight of those who had perished in the pursuit of knowledge. But no recognition could heal the wounds left by my family's disdain. The ache of their rejection lingered, a specter that haunted me, even as I stood in the light of newfound acclaim. So, when the time came for me to return home, I was armed not just with knowledge, but with a chilling sense of vindication. I arrived on a rainy evening, the kind of downpour that seemed to wash the world clean, but only served to amplify the dread in my heart. My childhood home stood before me, unchanged, yet suffocated under a veil of nostalgia and bitterness. As I stepped inside, the air thickened with unspoken words, and my family, now mere shadows of their former selves, gazed at me with a mixture of disbelief and something akin to fear. "You look different," my mother finally managed, her voice trembling as she took a step back. The truth was, I had changed. I was no longer the naive child they had scorned. I carried the weight of the dead with me, an unshakable presence that clung to my skin like a second layer. "Let me show you," I said, my voice steady, but the tremor in my hands betrayed me. I had brought a collection of my findings, artifacts, photographs, and recordings from the depths of the catacombs. They were treasures, yes, but they also held the power to unveil the horrors I had faced. I laid them out before my family, each item a thread in the tapestry of my dark journey. As I spoke, the walls seemed to close in. I recounted my encounters with the forgotten spirits of the dead, the whispers that followed me through the tunnels, and the chilling knowledge that I had gleaned from those who had come before me. I watched as their expressions shifted from disbelief to horror, their faces paling as the reality of what I had experienced settled in. "Enough!" my father shouted, slamming his fist on the table. "You're scaring your mother. This is ridiculous." But something stirred within me, a darkness that had lain dormant, waiting for this moment. I could no longer hide from what I had become. "You think it's ridiculous?" I spat, my voice rising. "You dismissed my passion, my calling. You laughed at me when I told you I would uncover the truth about the past, and now you're terrified of what I found." I reached for the final artifact, a small, intricately carved bone pendant that had once belonged to a priest of an ancient cult. As I held it in my palm, the air around us thickened, and the shadows in the room seemed to stretch and twist. "Do you see this?" I whispered, my voice cracking with the weight of it. This is a reminder of the sacrifices made for knowledge. The dead are not gone. They linger, waiting for someone to remember them. In that moment, the room darkened as if a cloud had passed over the sun, casting us into a twilight of despair. The whispers I had heard in the tunnels echoed around us, chilling and insistent. My family's faces twisted in fear as they felt the weight of the knowledge I carried. Then, in a flash of horror, they saw it. The shadows of the past, the very spirits I had encountered, surged forth, their faces twisted in anguish, their cries reverberating through the walls. My family, once so dismissive, now stood frozen, confronted by the ghosts of their disbelief. "Why didn't you believe?" I asked, my voice a low growl, filled with the anguish of a tormented soul. "You laughed at me, but the truth is here, and it demands to be acknowledged." As the shadows encircled them, I felt a sense of catharsis wash over me. The fear in their eyes mirrored the terror I had faced alone, the very terror that had once cast me into the depths of despair. They had mocked my obsession, but now they bore witness to the weight of the truth, a truth that could not be ignored. And as the haunting echoes of the past filled the room, I realized that I had not returned as a disgrace, but as a harbinger of dark knowledge. I was no longer their child, but a keeper of secrets that would forever alter the fabric of our lives. My family was left trembling in the wake of their disbelief, and in that moment I understood the price of their ridicule. I had survived what they could never fathom, and now they stood as a testament to the consequences of their ignorance, forever marked by the shadows they had once dismissed. As I turned to leave, I felt the weight of their gazes upon me, a mix of fear and understanding. I had become a warning, a figure draped in the shroud of the past, and as I stepped into the rain-soaked night, I knew I would carry the burden of the dead with me always.